Today, we're going way, way back, right to the beginning. We're diving deep into the first 3 chapters of Genesis to unpack the foundational story that literally sets the stage for everything else in the Bible. It's an incredible story of a perfect creation, a heartbreaking fall, and a single, powerful promise that changes the course of history. Let's get into it. Now, to really get what's going on in Genesis, it helps to understand something called the grand narrative. You can pretty much see the entire Bible as a 4-act play. Act 1 is creation, where God makes a perfect world. Act 2 is the fall, where humanity disobeys and sin messes everything up. Act 3 is the long, sprawling story of redemption, God's amazing plan to save and restore us. And it all leads to Act 4, the consummation, where God's plan is finally and fully realized. The story we're exploring today is what kicks off this entire epic. So here's our game plan. We'll start with a quick look at the book of Genesis itself. Then, we'll walk through the story step by step. We'll see the perfect creation, understand humanity's special place in it, witness the tragic fall, and then see how it all ends with both a punishment and a promise. So, what exactly is the book of Genesis? Well, its name in Hebrew, Bereshit, literally just means in the beginning. Pretty fitting, right? It's the very first of the 5 books of the Pentateuch, which are the foundation of the Hebrew scriptures. And tradition tells us it was written by Moses, who likely pulled together ancient stories and divine revelation while leading the Israelites through the wilderness. Now, what's really cool is how the book is split into 2 very different parts. The first 11 chapters are like a wide-angle lens, covering what's called primeval history, the story of all humanity, with huge events like creation, the fall, and the flood. But then, starting in chapter 12, bam, the camera zooms way in. It becomes patriarchal history, and the focus narrows to just one family line: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and Joseph, the ancestors of God's chosen people. So, let's dive in to Act 1 of our story, a perfect creation. That opening line, Genesis 1:1, is everything. You could argue that the entire Bible is built on this one simple but massive declaration. There is a God, and He is the source of all that is. The creation itself unfolds in this really orderly, methodical way over 6 days. Now, people debate the length of these days, but the source material we're looking at presents them as literal 24-hour periods. And a key phrase you see over and over is according to their kinds. The idea here is that God created everything mature and fully formed, not as simple organisms that needed to evolve over time. After those 6 days, on the 7th day, God rested. And it's super important to understand this wasn't because He was tired or needed a break. It was a symbolic act. It was like putting a period at the end of a sentence. The work of creating was finished, and now the work of sustaining all that life was beginning. And this brings us to the most unique part of creation, humanity. The text makes a clear distinction. While our physical bodies were formed from the dust of the ground, God personally breathed the breath of life into man. It's a really intimate act that sets humanity apart from every other living thing. So what does this image of God thing actually mean? Well, the text suggests it's not about looking like God physically. It's about our spiritual nature. It means we share certain attributes with our Creator, things like a conscience, personality, a sense of right and wrong, and free will. And this is the key. These shared qualities are what make a real relationship, a secret agreement or covenant with God, even possible. But the story continues. For the very first time, God looks at His creation and declares something is not good. He sees Adam is alone, so He creates Eve from Adam's rib. She's called a helper, but that word doesn't mean a subordinate or an assistant. The idea is that she is His perfect counterpart, designed from the very beginning to be His equal and share in life and communion with God. And right here, from this very first pairing, the text lays out what are seen as 3 foundational principles for marriage. There's independence, leaving your parents to start a new family unit. There's union, 2 equals living together without one dominating the other. And finally, unity, where 2 people become one through love. So, we have this perfect world, this perfect setup. But as you probably know, it doesn't stay that way. We're now entering Act 2, the tragic fall. And it all begins when a new character slithers onto the scene, the serpent. Now, the serpent, who is identified elsewhere in the Bible as Satan, is incredibly cunning. He doesn't come in with force or threats. He starts with a simple question, planting a seed of doubt. Did God really say? He subtly twists God's words, making a simple boundary sound like a cruel restriction. Then he totally reframes the forbidden fruit, making it seem like the one thing they need to be wise and happy. And this, of course, brings up that huge question, right? Why would God even put a forbidden tree in the garden to begin with? Well, the idea here is that God, having made humanity with free will, wanted them to choose to obey him out of love. He didn't want pre-programmed robots. The tree, therefore, represented a genuine choice. And the moment they make the wrong choice, the consequences are immediate and absolutely catastrophic. The contrast is just staggering. Their original purity and innocence, gone, replaced by the realization they were naked and a feeling of shame. Their perfect, open relationship with God, broken, replaced by fear and separation. The very ground is cursed, and the harmony of creation starts to unravel. But God's response wasn't only about punishment. In the midst of this disaster, right in the middle of these consequences, the text reveals the very first glimmer of hope, a promise for the future. So the consequences were specific. For Adam, the ground is cursed, and from now on, work will be hard toil. For Eve, the pain of childbirth would be dramatically increased. But what's fascinating is how the source material points out a kind of hidden blessing within the discipline. The struggle of hard work can lead to health and a deep sense of fulfillment. And the pain of childbirth is so often eclipsed by the profound joy of raising children. And then we get this absolutely pivotal moment. While God is delivering the curse to the serpent, he makes this cryptic promise. He says that an offspring of the woman will one day crush the serpent's head, even though the serpent will strike his heel. Theologically, this is known as the first gospel. It's the very first hint of a prophecy that a future redeemer, Jesus, would come to deliver the final knockout blow to Satan. And we see one final, tender act of grace. God sees Adam and Eve hiding in their newfound shame, and he himself provides them with garments of skin to cover them. It's a detail that might seem small, but it's a powerful symbol of his continued care and provision, even in the midst of their catastrophic failure. And so the story ends with Adam and Eve cast out of the garden. An angel with a flaming sword now guards the way to the tree of life, cutting humanity off from their source of eternal life. And this sets up the profound central question that the rest of the entire Bible is trying to answer. If the way back was blocked, how could humanity ever return home?